We are also going to have a look about the nature of prayers. We're going to look at the importance of them in the temple program. And we're also going to try and discuss where they're situated in the temple program and what's especially valuable for us as practicing devotees in meditating and continue to meditate on these daily prayers. So Gurvastakam. Gurvastakam, Srila Prabhupada introduced very early after the establishment of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. When you get to Lilamrita, you'll find it in the second volume. When Prabhupada starts in 26 Second Avenue, quite early on, he starts in the beginning, I think he starts just having evening classes. But then when he starts taking morning classes, he immediately starts with Gurvastakam. So this is from Prabhupada Lilamrita. So a number of the devotees were staying in this Mott Street apartment. So they would discuss the Swami because they really felt that he was a serious guru. When they heard that Swamiji would give classes at 6 a.m. up in his apartment, they were all very eager to attend. So Prabhupada held his classes for almost 2 months in the privacy of his room, the same room he typed and talked to guests. To Keith, it was not just simply a class in philosophy, but a mystical experience of sweetness. The sound of his voice, this is Keith, with the sun coming up, we'd chant for a few minutes, softly clapping hands, and Swamiji would speak. The thing that got me most was simply the sound of his voice, especially while he was chanting Sanskrit. It was like music to my ears, to hear him speak the raw sound. So as not to disturb the neighbors, Srila Prabhupada would say, chant softly, and he asked the boys to clap softly, so softly that their hands barely touched. Then he would chant the prayers to the spiritual master, Samsara Davan Alalida Loka. The spiritual master is receiving the benediction of the ocean of mercy. Just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it, so the spiritual master extinguishes the blazing fire of material existence. With his eyes closed, he sat singing softly in the dim morning light. The few who attended, Keith, Howard, Chuck, Steve, and Wally, sat entranced. Never before had the Swami been so appreciated. Okay. So now we're going to sing these, but we're going to do verse by verse so that we're not coming backwards and forwards. Whoever's unmuted, please mute yourself if you've got background noise going on. Okay, so there are different tunes to Gurvastakam. And in fact, we'll talk towards the end, we'll talk about these ragas. There's a morning tune and there's an afternoon tune. And this is to do with the ragas. Certain combinations of notes are good for certain times of the day. We'll try and, if we have time, we'll try and do a short introduction to this idea. But this song the tune that Prabhupada sings most of the time is a morning tune. And the one that's on the Radha Krishna Temple album, which is also sung at Vyasa Pujas, is an afternoon tune. So we'll just quickly, we'll just sing this verse. Samsara davan alalida loka janaya karunya ganaganatam Samsara davan alalida loka janaya karunya ganaganatam Raptasya kalyanarunarnavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Raptasya kalyanarunarnavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam So the picture is here because Davanala means the forest fire. We'll go through the word for word, and then I've got Srila Prabhupada's purport also to speak about. So samsara, of material existence, Dava Anala, by the forest fire, Lida, afflicted, Loka, the people, Tranaya, to deliver, Karunya, of mercy, Ganaganatvam, of the quality of a cloud, Praptasya, who has obtained, Kalyan, auspicious, Guna, qualities, Arnavasya, who is an ocean. One day I offer obeisances, Guruhu, my spiritual master, Sri, auspicious, Charana Aravindam, unto the lotus feet. Translation. The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy. Just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it, so the spiritual master delivers the material afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master, who is an ocean of auspicious qualities. So Srila Prabhupada, this is one lecture he gave in, it's also included in Journey of Self-Discovery book in chapter 4 on the Guru. I think the lecture's in Stockholm, I'll find the reference later. So Prabhupada describes first that this prayer describes the symptoms of the spiritual master. So it was symptoms and activities. So a spiritual master has two kinds of symptoms in his activities. One is called constant, and the other is called temporary. So this verse, Srila Prabhupada says, describes the constant symptom of the spiritual master, that he can deliver his disciples from the blazing fire of this material existence. Tranaya means deliverance, and Karunya means compassionate. So this Karunya Tranaya, compassionate deliverance, is very important. It's a constant symptom of a spiritual master, no matter who the spiritual master is. And to show how universal this principle is, Prabhupada gives the example of Lord Jesus Christ. He explains how Lord Jesus Christ was crucified for trying to spread karunya amongst the people, for trying to spread his mercy amongst the people. He took the sins of others. And that's also, Prabhupada mentions, that's something that our spiritual master also does. At the time of initiation, he takes our sinful reactions. So that's how much merciful the spiritual master is. So the picture in the background of this is of the cloud with the rain falling, because Ganaganatvam means a dense cloud in the sky. So when you have a blazing forest fire, it's very difficult to extinguish. Prabhupada says that what can the fire brigade do? They can hardly do anything. And they try. In America, they have helicopters with big buckets of water, and they try and control the forest fire like that way. But really, the control of the forest fire comes when the rain comes. And not just a little bit of rain, it has to be a lot of rain to extinguish a blazing fire. So Prabhupada goes on to explain that we're trying very hard to make ourselves comfortable into this material existence. But its nature is that of a blazing fire, and we can't make ourselves comfortable. He likes the example of the United Nations. They've brought a movement called the United Nations, trying to create peace in this world. But all it does is he explains it keeps expanding, and there are more and more nations keep joining this because they keep splitting because of this tension. And the next important word Prabhupada brings up is praptasya. So a spiritual master is not self-made. It is not that if anyone comes before you and says, I've attained perfection, I've realized something, and then I can tell you. No, the spiritual master, bona fide spiritual, means he has to receive the power from authority. It is not that one can become a spiritual master overnight. He has to take the power from his spiritual master. This is called praptasya, one who has attained, one who has got the merciful blessings of his spiritual master. So, and we should always remember that the spiritual master is in disciplic succession. We'll talk more about Guru Tattva when we do Guru Vandana next week. Next week we'll be doing Guru Vandana. We'll try and put more about Guru Tattva because there's so much in this prayer today that we can't cover everything. So the original spiritual master is Krishna, of course. And Krishna blesses his disciple. Like in our Sampradaya, we have Lord Brahma as the next disciple. And then Narada, who is Brahma's son and becomes the next disciple. And then Vyas. Narada teaches Vyas. We get that in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And then Madhvacharya, like that. It comes down. So Praptasya means one who has obtained. And what has he obtained? Kalyana. Kalyana means auspicity, auspiciousness. And Gunarnavasya. Gunarnavasya means, Arnava means ocean, and Guna means spiritual qualities. So Prabhupada said, making a point that these are very nice analogies, very nice metaphors that are being used, but they help us to understand the nature of the Guru. And therefore, one day Guru Sri Charanaravinda, one has to offer obeisances to such a spiritual master. No. Prabhupada goes on for quite a long time about this verse. I'll just come down towards the end of it. He says, the first qualification of the spiritual master or guru is that he brings you the message to stop the blazing fire in your heart. That is the test. Everyone has a blazing fire in his heart, a blazing fire of anxiety. This is the nature of material existence. Everyone has anxiety, always. No one is free from it. Even the small bird has anxiety. If you give a small bird some grains to eat, he'll eat them. But he won't be peaceful. He'll be looking this way and that way. Is someone coming to catch me, to kill me? And giving examples of President Nixon, so many presidents, even Gandhi. Gandhi in our country was full of anxiety. So everyone has anxiety. Even when they think they are big and powerful, they're full of anxiety. So he says, this is the test. If you follow the instructions of the Guru, you'll be free from anxiety. Don't try to find a cheap guru or a fashionable guru. To keep guru as a fashion. I have a guru, that will not help. So this is the forest fire, and the rain cloud coming, and the forest fire after the rain. So I just wanted to include some meditation for us to think on. And then we'll go on to the next verse. First, if anyone has any questions about this verse, we could take a couple of minutes to look at those, if anyone has anything to ask.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Danvat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji, the blazing fire of material existence, is it due to our desires, or what is it?
Well, it's the very nature of this material existence is going to give us anxieties, as Srila Prabhupada is explaining. And the reason we came into this material existence is because we had some separate desire from Krishna. Srila Prabhupada explained at one time, the devotees have said, he explained it's as simple as if we're eating the most wonderful dal rice and chapatis every day, and every day we get dal rice and chapatis, it's so wonderful. But one day we think, wouldn't I just like a pizza? And so the very moment we think, wouldn't I just like something that's not what Krishna is enjoying, we fall into the material world. So this separate desire is the cause of our engagement in this material world, which leads to our anxieties.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. Oh, one.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes.
Mataji, on the same point, then why didn't Krishna just give us, or the, let's say, gulab jam that we were desiring?
So,
Right?
yeah. The thing is that Krishna wants us to serve him without any motives of our own. If we have, even if we become a pure devotee of sorts, but we have some desire in the way we want to serve Krishna, we'll end up in Vaikuntha. We won't end up in Goloka Vrindavan. Goloka Vrindavan is a very, very special place where all the devotees only want to please Krishna. And because Krishna likes that relationship so much, that he only wants to please his devotees. So it becomes a special place that's not available anywhere else. Thank you. Okay, now we go on for this next verse. Mahaprabhur Kirtana Nitya Gita Varicha Madhyan Manasurasena Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Varicha Madhyan Manasurasena Romanchakam Bhasrutaranga Bhaja Vande Guru Sri Charanaravinda Romanchakam Vasutaranga Bhaja Vande Guru Sri Charanaravinda. Mahaprabhu, of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Kirtana, by chanting, Nritya, dancing, Gita, singing, Vaditra, playing musical instruments, Madhyat, gladdened, Manasaha, whose mind, Rasena, due to the mellows of pure devotion, Roma Ancha, standing of the hair, Kampa, quivering of the body, Asru Taranga, torrents of tears, Bahajaha, who feels, one day I offer obeisances, Guruho, of my spiritual master, Sri, auspicious Charana Aravindam, unto the lotus feet. Chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy, singing and playing musical instruments, the spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his mind. Sometimes his hair stands on end. He feels quivering in his body, and tears flow from his eyes like waves. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. Okay, so this, Prabhupada says, this is the second test of the bona fide guru. The second symptom is that he's always engaged in chanting and glorifying Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is his business. The spiritual master is chanting the holy name of the Lord and dancing, a remedy for all calamities in this material world. So when we study Kali Yuga Dharma next month, we'll study more about the different yugas and why this Sankirtan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is so powerful and so special in this age of Kali. But Srila Prabhupada is talking, there is a verse in the Bhagavatam which explains these different yugas. Krita yad dhyayato Vishnu. In such a yuga, everybody was meditating on Lord Vishnu. meditating for thousands and thousands of years. Valmiki Muni meditated for 60,000 years. But in this age, nobody can meditate. In the next age, Treta Yuga, people performed rituals as Vedic sacrifices. Tretayam yajato makahi. Makahi means big sacrifices with huge amounts of money. And people are poor at the moment. They can't perform those sacrifices. We know even in Maharaj Yudhishthir's time, when he was in Dwapara Yuga, they were using pure gold instruments for sacrifices and qualified brahmanas. So this is not possible in this age. In Dwapare Paricharyayam. In Dwapara Yuga, it was possible to worship the deity opulently. Like we see Balaji temple in South India, the opulent people still donate very opulent gifts to Lord Balaji. But that type of opulence that they had in Dwapara Yuga is not possible now. So therefore in Kali Yuga, Kalo Tad Dari Kirtanat. In the age of Kali, one can attain all perfection simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord. So this Krishna consciousness movement is meant to spread such chanting. So the Guru's job is to spread this chanting. Prabhupada says, unless he performs it himself, how can he teach his disciples? So he'll be dancing and chanting. One thing is to teach his disciple, and the other thing is that he's also gaining that ecstasy from dancing and chanting. Prabhupada says that a spiritual master enjoys transcendental bliss within his mind, chanting and dancing. And unless you're blissful, you can't keep on dancing like that. You can't be artificial. A devotee dances, it's not artificial. So therefore, sometimes these ecstatic symptoms will come. Ramancha Kampasru Taranga Bhaja. So generally, the devotees, advanced devotees, try to hide these symptoms. When we look also at Guru Vandana next week, we'll find that there were times when Prabhupada couldn't hide those symptoms. And when he introduced Guru Vandana, was one of those times. Okay, so here's just a small picture of some different devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Does anyone have any questions about this verse? Okay, we shall go on to the next verse. Sloka 3. Sri Vigrahara Dhananijana Shringaratan Mandira Majana Shri Vigrahara Dhananijana Shringaratan Mandira Majana Yuktasya Bhaktam Sthanim Jatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Yuktasya Bhaktam Sthanim Jatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam. Shri Vigraha, of the Archa Vigraha, deities. Aradhana, the worship. Nitya, daily. Nana, with various. Shringara, clothing and ornaments. Tat, of the Lord. Mandira, of the temple. Marjana Ado, in the cleaning. Yuktasya, who is engaged. Bhakthan, his disciples. Cha and Niyunjataha, who engages. Abhi also. One day I offer my obeisances. Guruhu, of my spiritual master, Sri auspicious, Charana Aravindan, unto the lotus feet. The spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. He also engages his disciples in such worship. They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, and perform other similar worship for the Lord. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. So this is the third symptom of the Guru. The spiritual master is engaging himself in worshipping the deities. And he also engages his disciples in those worship. The spiritual master's duty is to engage his disciples in worshipping the deity, Sri Vigraha. So we worship the deity is important for us because it's our way of serving Krishna directly. The deity of Krishna is actually considered to be an incarnation of Krishna, an actual incarnation of Krishna. So when we serve him, we're learning to serve Krishna directly in personal service. So it's very important for us. It also helps to engage us more fully in our meditation of Krishna and in our chanting. So Prabhupada's giving the lecture in Stockholm. Here in Stockholm, this worship has not yet fully been established, but we worship the pictures of Lord Chaitanya and the Guru. In other centers, such as ones in America and England, there is deity worship. Shri Vigrahara Dana Nichanana, Shringaratan Mandira Majanodo. Deity worship means to dress the deity nicely, to cleanse the temple very nicely, to offer foodstuffs to the deity, and to accept the remnants of the deity's foodstuffs for our eating. This is the method of deity worship. Deity worship is done by the Guru himself, and he also engages his disciples in such worship. So here are some pictures of Srila Prabhupada engaging in deity worship. You can see he's bathing the deities, he's offering arti, he's installing deities. So Srila Prabhupada, he gave some instructions on deity worship. One of the instructions he gave is that timing and cleanliness are the two most important things in deity worship. He took on this Western saying, cleanliness is next to godliness, but he changed a little bit. He said cleanliness is right there. Cleanliness is godliness. Cleanliness is very important in our Sanatana Dharma, in our practice of Krishna consciousness. And so much so that, before the Ratayatra, we have the cleaning of the Gundicha temple with Gundicha Marjana. So our practice in all of the ISKCON temples is to spend that day of Gundicha Marjana, at least 3 or 4 hours in the afternoon, actually cleaning the temple. And one of the devotees gave a class and he said, you know how much Srila Prabhupada, what he meant by cleaning the temple. He didn't just mean cleaning the altar. Nor did Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu cleaned the whole temple and all the outside and everything. But they explained that Srila Prabhupada had the brahmacharis cleaning the brahmachari ashram on Gundicha Marjana Day. So cleanliness means cleanliness everywhere in our life. Prabhupada explains that this cleanliness means is cleaning our heart, and also dressing the deity nicely is also cleaning our heart. Does anyone have any discussions on Sri Vigrahara Dhananichanana Sringaratin Mandira Najanati? Varshana. Did you want to speak? Does anyone want to say anything about these verses? Okay, number 4. Chaturvidashi Bhagavat Prasadam Sadvana Triptan Haribhakta Sangam. Chaturvidashi Bhagavat Prasadam Sadvana Triptan Haribhakta Sangam. Kripaiva Triptim Bhajata Sadeva Vande Guru Shri Charanam. Kripaiva Triptim Bhajata Sadeva Vande Guru Shri Charanam. Chatuhu, 4. Vida, kinds. Shri, holy. Bhagavad Prasada, which have been offered to Krishna. Svadu, palatable. Anna, by foods. Triptan, spiritually satisfied. Hari, of Krishna. Bhakta Sangam, the devotees. Kritva, having made. Eva, thus. Triptim, satisfaction. Bhajata, who feels. Sada, always. Eva, certainly. Vande, I offer obeisances. Guruho, to my spiritual master. Sri, auspicious. Charanaravinda, unto the lotus feet. The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food, analyzed as that which can be licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavad Prasad, he is satisfied. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. So this is the 4th symptom of a spiritual master. So the spiritual master is distributing prasadam. Spiritual master encourages distribution of prasadam, remnants of Krishna's food, to the public. Ours is not a dry philosophy, simply talk and go away. No, we distribute prasadam, very sumptuous prasadam. In every temple, we offer prasadam to anyone who comes. In each and every temple, we already have from 50 to 200 devotees. And outsiders also come to take prasadam. So prasadam distribution is another symptom of a genuine spiritual master. So Prabhupada set up a system. He wanted everybody who came to the temple to get prasadam. Some type of prasadam. At the very least, we're offering some charanamrita. But Prabhupada had an idea to give everyone at least some good prasadam to take away. Unfortunately, we have a problem in this time in Kali Yuga, where so many people would come if we gave away prasadam free, that it would be very hard to keep up giving prasadam to everyone else. Yet some of the temples in South India actually manage that, free prasadam to everyone who comes. I like Balaji temple. There's a free prasadam booth there that you can just go and you can wait. And within 20 minutes or so, you can be served with hot prasadam. Simple prasadam, but very nice. So this is a system that's been set up to try and spread the mercy of Krishna far and wide. Prabhupada says, if you eat Bhagavad Prasadam, gradually you become spiritualized. It has the potency. Therefore it is said that realization of God begins with the tongue. Sevan mukhehi jivado. If you engage in your tongue in the service of the Lord, then you realize God. So the engagement of the tongue has got 2 engagements. One is to chant the holy name of the Lord, and you take this prasadam, remnants of the food offered to the Lord. And then you will become God-realized, self-realized, just by these 2 methods. You don't have to be highly educated, or be a philosopher, a scientist, or a rich man to realize God. You sincerely engage your tongue in the service of the Lord, and you will realize Him. It's not very difficult. So Svadvana Triptam. We head there. Svadvana. Svadu Pade Anna, by foods. Sada Eva. Okay. Svadvana Triptam. We enjoy these food. Hari Bhakta Sangha. Hari Bhakta Sangha means the association of the devotees. You cannot do it outside. So Prabhupada would criticize devotees who wanted to go and distribute prasadam outside for emergencies cases or for anything else. Take the prasadam and distribute it outside. He said, no, people should come to the temple, and that way they will get some association with the holy name and some association with the devotees. So rather than distribute widely prasadam outside, where people will never know who you are and where the prasadam came from, or never contact you again, in India he brought in this program where nobody within 10 kilometers of the temple should go hungry. So distributing prasadam from within the temple compound, so that the people who are coming for prasadam actually get some kind of association with the holy name and with the devotees. Hari Bhakta Sangha, in the association with the devotees. And the Guru is very satisfied. Kritveva Triptam Bhajata Sadeva. So the Guru is very satisfied when he sees his disciples enjoying Bhagavad Prasadam. And that doesn't just mean that gulab jamun that we wanted. Enjoying Bhagavad Prasadam means appreciating that it is non-different from the Lord. So it's coming from the Lord. So in this way, this will increase. Of course, the Guru is also pleased if we enjoy the Prasadam, because that means that the devotees who are cooking for the Lord are cooking to a good standard. So Radharani's standard is a very high standard. She was such an expert cook. Even the Leela there, that she had a blessing from Gurvastakam, that everything that she cooked would taste wonderful. But of course, she would cook everything wonderful anyway. So the Guru is very pleased when we enjoy the prasadam because it's wonderful prasadam. But he's also very much pleased when we enjoy the prasadam, because when we start to realize that it's non-different from Krishna and that we're actually getting spiritualized and purified by taking Bhagavad Prasadam and nothing else, by only taking Bhagavad Prasadam, unless in dire emergencies, in which case we can offer something else in the nature of the mode of goodness that's edible. We can offer to Guru and consume it if absolutely necessary. But generally, we try and just take Bhagavad Prasadam and nothing else. So does anyone have any questions about this Bhagavad Prasad? So here you can see Prabhupada is cooking, and in the top picture he's supervising the cooking, and he's also distributing the prasadam. In the picture in the background, Prabhupada is enjoying prasadam along with the devotees and some of his sannyasis. So Prabhupada, the spiritual master, is very much involved in these. So we, of course, may not always see our spiritual master doing these things, but nevertheless he's doing it and encouraging it. So one thing, I just wanted to mention in relation to this, that we heard in the first verse that the constant symptom was the spiritual master delivering everybody from the blazing fire of material existence. And some of these other symptoms, the spiritual master may do sometimes, but not all the time. Like sometimes he is cooking for the devotees and feeding the devotees prasadam, but not always. So this is a secondary symptom, rather than the constant symptom, which is the desire to deliver everybody from the ocean of material existence. Okay, so we shall move on to the next verse if no one has anything to say. Shri Radhika Madhavayoga Para Madhurya Lila Gunarupa Shri Radhika Madhavayoravara Madhurya Lila Gunarupanana Ratikshanaishwadanalolukasa Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Ratikshanaishwadanalolukasa Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda. So don't you just love Srila Prabhupada's smile in this picture? I don't know who put together this picture. I found it on the internet. But it's very nicely done.
Yes, ma'am. So beautiful.
Yeah. Okay. Sri Radhika of Srimati Radharani, Madhavayahu of Lord Madhava, Krishna, Apara, unlimited, Madhurya, conjugal, Leela, pastimes, Guna, qualities, Rupa, forms, Nam Nan, of the holy names, Pratikshana, at every moment, Ashvadana, relishing, Lolupasya, who aspires after, Vande, obeisances, Guruho, of my spiritual master, Sri, auspicious, Charana, Aravindam, unto the lotus feet. The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radhika and Madhava, their qualities, names, and forms. The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment. I offer my respectful obeisances unto such a spiritual master. So, the spiritual master is always thinking of the pastimes of Krishna with his consort Srimati Radharani and the gopis. Sometimes he is thinking about Krishna's pastimes with the cowherd boys. That means he is always thinking about Krishna engaged in some type of pastime. Pratikshana lolubhasya. Pratiksha means he's thinking 24 hours a day. That is Krishna consciousness. One must be engaged 24 hours a day in thinking of Krishna. You have to make yourself a program like this. We have made a program. All the boys and girls in Krishna conscious movement are engaged 24 hours daily, not just officially, not just once a week they go and meditate, go to church, go to some temple. No, 24 hours a day. So Prabhupada has given us this program for 24 hours a day. Another thing that's significant about this is Srila Prabhupada's putting Sri Radhika Madhavya. Radharani and Krishna are always together. They're not separate. We can't just approach one and not the other. Some people like to see Krishna by himself. And of course, in her form as Lakshmi, a lot of people want to go and worship Lakshmi and say, oh, forget about Krishna, Vishnu. We'll just have Lakshmi. So, Prabhupada's stressing on the fact that Radharani and Radhika and Madhava are always together. And this is Madhurya Leela Guna Rupa Namna. So it doesn't just mean the Leela. It means Guna Rupa as well. So I tried to hint at that with the background for this picture, which shows the different Leelas of Krishna. So it implies the different qualities as well. So the system is name is the first thing that we take up. We take up the chanting of the holy name. And from the name, from the name, we will see the form. So first the spiritual master gives us the holy name. And we chant the holy name, and that will purify our consciousness to a certain extent. And then he will give us the worship of the form of the deity, in the form of the deity. So this, can you please mute Amritanda Jagannath Das? Amritanda, please mute yourself. Okay, so we chant the name that the Guru has given us, and from chanting of the name, we get engaged in the deity worship, which is the roop of the Lord, the form of the Lord. So once we're engaged in worshipping the deity, and we're meditating on serving the deity for his pleasure, and we're meditating also, Lord Kapila explains in the third canon of Bhagavatam, how one who worships the deity should also be seeing the super soul in the heart of all living entities. And this means treating everybody very nicely. Even the people who come in the temple and just rush in and crush and try and get their darshan and then want to rush somewhere else. But we treat them nicely. That's an important part of developing the qualities, the guna. So once we worship the deity and we see the super soul in the heart of all living beings, we will also develop the qualities, the guna. And then once we develop all these qualities, then we may find that we have qualification to enter into the Leela. But of course, Srila Prabhupada was so kind that very early in the Krishna consciousness movement, he has given us the Krishna book so that we can start to know about Krishna and meditate on him. So Prabhupada talks in his purport about this 24 hours a day. So these daily prayers that we're talking about from now on until next week are part of this program for 24 hours a day, meditating on Krishna and his representative, the Guru. So this is, and then of course Prabhupada had a program also of studying the books. And he would have the Bhagavatam in the morning, the Bhagavad Gita in the afternoon, Krishna book at night. And when the other books came out, some of the devotees were studying 4 or 5 books a day. When Nectar of Devotion came out, they'd study Nectar of Devotion for some time. And like that, they would study so much the books. So we have to make us cultivate that habit for reading Srila Prabhupada's books. So this, we're trying to imagine Srila Prabhupada meditating on Radha Madhav 24 hours a day, including his books, of course. Does anyone want to comment or question about this verse? Then we should go on with the next verse, number 7. Nikunjayo no natikali siyadyai yayali vidyo katira bhikshani Nikunjayo no natikali siyadyai yayali vidyo katira bhikshani tatrati daksharati valabhasi Vande Guru Shri Charanam Tatrati Daksharati Balabhasi Vande Guru Shri Charanam. So you see in this picture how all of the gopis are engaged in serving Krishna, Radha Krishna. This is an important thing to realize, and it also comes out in the meaning of this verse. Sri Radhika of Srimati Radharani, Madhavayo, the Lord Madhava Krishna, Apara, unlimited, Madhurya, conjugal, Leela, pastimes, Guna, qualities, Rupa, forms, Nam, of the holy names. Oh, we got the wrong translation here. Let me just fix that. Okay, let's try that again. Nikunja Yunaha, of Radha and Krishna. Rati, of conjugal love. Keli, of the pastimes. Siddhyai, for the perfection. Ya, whatever. Alibihi, by the gopis. Yuktihi, arrangements. Apekshaniya, desirable. Tatra, in that connection. Ati dakshat, because of being very expert. Ati valabhasya, who is very dear. Vande, I offer obeisances. Guruhu, of my spiritual master. Sri, auspicious. Charana aravindam, unto the lotus feet. The spiritual master is very dear because he is expert in assisting the gopis, who are at different times making different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavan. I offer my most humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. So Prabhupada explains that the spiritual master's goal is that he wants to be transferred to the planet of Krishna, where he can associate with the gopis and help them to serve Krishna. Some spiritual masters are thinking of becoming assistants to the gopis. Some are thinking of becoming assistants to the cowherd boys. Some are thinking of becoming assistants to Nanda and Mother Yashoda. And some are thinking of becoming God's servants. Some are thinking of becoming flower trees, fruit trees, calves, or cows in Vrindavan. There are 5 types of melas: Shanta, veneration; Dasya, servitorship; Sakya, friendship; Vatsalya, parenthood; and Madhurya, conjugal love. Everything there in the spiritual world. Chintamani prakara satmashu. In the spiritual sky, even the land is spiritual. The trees are spiritual, the fruit is spiritual, the flowers are spiritual, the water is spiritual, the servants are spiritual, the friends are spiritual, the mothers are spiritual, the fathers are spiritual, the Lord is spiritual, and his associates are spiritual. It is all absolute, although there are varieties. So this is a very important quality for us of the spiritual master, is that he's aspiring for the highest goal of going back to Goloka Vrindavan. So we find that other sampradayas are aspiring for the worship of Lakshmi Narayan. And in our sampradaya from the Gaudiya Madhva sampradaya, the first devotee who was aspiring for the highest love of Godhead was Madhavendra Puri. So Prabhupada here is talking about how even the flowers and the water, everything in the spiritual world. So Madhavendra Puri in the spiritual world is a tree. He's a Kalpavriksha tree. But in order to serve Krishna nicely, as a tree, he can serve Krishna nicely by offering his flowers, his fruits, his shade, his branches for the boys to climb on. So many things a tree can offer in the spiritual world where they're all cognizant and they can all offer service. But he also goes to serve Krishna by coming into the material world and demonstrating the highest expression of Mahabhav in the material world, so that we can become attracted to that highest goal. So that's a very significant symptom of the spiritual master, is that he actually aspires for this highest goal that is very rarely attained and very rarely available. So Prabhupada goes on to explain the difference between the spiritual world and the material world. In the material world, these varieties appear, but they're just reflected, like trees on the riverbank. Similarly, as a tree is reflected in the water, but upside down, similarly the material world is a reflection of the spiritual world, but perverted reflection. In the spiritual world, there is love between Radha and Krishna. Krishna is always young, Nava Yovana, and Radharani is always young, because she is Krishna's pleasure potency. Sri Radhika Madhavayo Apada. That was the last verse. Srila Prabhupada's explaining it now. So in this world, we find love between mother and son, between wife and husband, between master and servant, between friend and friend, between the master and the dog, or the cat or the cow. But these are reflections of the spiritual world. Krishna is a good lover of animals, the calves and the cows. Just as here we have dogs and cats, there Krishna loves calves and cows. You've seen the pictures of Krishna. He was always having a calf or a cow, with peacocks and parrots and all sorts of animals are always with him. So the propensity to love even an animal is there in the spiritual world. Otherwise, how could it be reflected into the material world? This world is just a reflection. So everything we see around us is there in the spiritual world, but in its pure form. So if you want to understand the original propensity to love, you have to practice Krishna consciousness. Here in the material world, everything is frustration. Even when there is love, a man loves a woman or a woman loves a man, but there is always frustration. Sometimes they divorce because of a perverted reflection. There is no real love in this world. It's simply lust. Real love is in the spiritual world between Radha and Krishna. Real love is there between Krishna and the gopis. Real love is there in friendship between Krishna and his cowherd boys. Real love is there between Krishna and the cows and calves. Real love between Krishna and the trees, flowers and water. In the spiritual world, everything is love. But in this material world, we are merely satisfied with the reflection of things. And therefore we're not really satisfied. So we have to learn this. In Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Krishna says, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tatvataha. We should understand Krishna in truth, not superficially. We should learn the science of Krishna. Simply try to love Krishna. The process is that you worship the deity, you take prasadam, you chant Krishna's holy names, you follow the instruction of the spiritual master. In this way, you'll learn how to understand Krishna. Then your life will be successful. So Prabhupada is actually encouraging us to take up these things that are given as the symptoms of the spiritual master and take them to do ourselves, because that is our way to follow in the footsteps of the spiritual master. Does anyone have any questions about this verse or selection of verses? You see Radha and Krishna always together, and is always being served by the gopis, by the cowherd boys, by the trees, and by everyone else. This is the picture of the spiritual world, which comes out of this verse. Okay, we'll go on to the next verse. Sloka 7. Sakshad darit vena samasta shastre uktastatha bhavyatadeva sadhvi kintu prabhurya priya eva tasa vande guru sri charanam. Sakshad darit vena samasta shastre uktastatha bhavyatadeva sadhvi kintu prabhurya priya eva tasa vande guru sri charanam. So Sakshat, directly, Harit Vena, the quality of Hari, Samasta, all, Shastrehi, by the scriptures, Uktaha, acknowledged, Tata, thus, Bhavyate, is considered, Eva, also, Sadvihi, by great saintly persons. Kintu, however, Prabhu, to the Lord, Yaha, who, Priyaha, dear, Eva, certainly, Tasya, of him, the Guru. One day I offer obeisances, Guruho, of my spiritual master, Sri auspicious, Charana, Aravindam, unto the lotus feet. The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord, because he is the most confidential servitor of the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master, who is a bona fide representative of Krishna. So now these last two verses I've taken from other quotes from Prabhupada's purports and classes, because that's the extent of his first class in Stockholm. So Sakshipta Ritvena. A devotee's highest position is preaching all over the world the glories of the Supreme Personality Godhead. Therefore, the devotees are actually the representatives of the Supreme Lord, and as such they travel all over the world directly as Narayan, because they carry Narayan within their hearts and preach his glories. The representative of Narayan is as good as Narayan, but he is not to conclude like the Mayavadis that he has become Narayan. Generally, a sannyasi is addressed as Narayan by the Mayavadis. Their idea is that simply by taking sannyas, one becomes equal to Narayan, or becomes Narayan. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in these verses explains Sakshat Daripena Samasta Shastri Yuktastata Bhavyata Evasambi Kintu Prabhoya Priya Evatasya Vande Guru Sri Charanaravinda. According to the Vaishnava philosophy, a devotee is as good as Narayan, not by becoming Narayan, but by becoming the confidential servant of Narayan. Such personalities act as spiritual masters for the benefit of the people in general, and as such, the spiritual master who is preaching the glories of Narayan should be accepted as Narayan and given all respects. So the other thing that's mentioned here is how it's acknowledged in all the Shastras. That also comes again in Guru Vandana. The qualities of the spiritual master, these ones are described here. This work by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and in all the Shastras, the qualities of the Guru are given, and how he's the direct representative of the Supreme Lord. So we'll do more of Tattva in Guru Vandana. But Guru Tattva, as we explained, comes from Krishna himself. So Tattva is one. When we see that some gurus have different moods and other gurus have different moods, it's just like Prabhupada's explaining in this in the beginning of this class, how the constant symptom is the wish to desire all living entities from the ocean of, from the fire of material existence. At times they will do different things, but there is no difference between them. It's not that we have to choose between spiritual masters on the basis of what they're teaching. As long as they're teaching true to what Krishna has taught, they're bona fide spiritual masters. And our choice of a relationship with a guru is determined by our faith in being able to develop that relationship with the guru, because we need to put our faith in the guru. So choice of a guru is as much up to us, who it is that we can put faith in. We have to, by our intelligence and by our prayers and by our sincere endeavor, we have to determine who it is that we have faith in. It's not that we reject all other gurus and say, my guru is the best guru. They say in Hindi, Hamara guru jagat guru. So it doesn't work like that. This is a cause of some problems. When people think like that, they cause distress in ISKCON. We'll speak more about that towards the end of the course when we talk about the founder Acharya and how important it is that we all see this Guru Tattva as one, and that Srila Prabhupada is our founding Guru. So that's why, even though this prayer is about the qualities and symptoms of all gurus, I've put pictures only of Srila Prabhupada, because Srila Prabhupada is our common spiritual master. He's our preeminent Siksha Guru. And we all have him in common, and that way we can all stay together as a family. So that's also very important in understanding the Guru as a tattva. That is not one Guru against another Guru. Some more picture of Prabhupada with the Shastras, because I couldn't think of anything more appropriate. How Prabhupada is a direct representative of all the Shastras, and he's presented them all for our knowledge. Does anyone have any comments or questions about this verse? We'll go on to sloka number 8. Yasya prasadan bhagavat prasadam Yasya prasadan nagati kutopi Yayanstuvans tasya yasastri sangam Vande guru sricharam Yasya prasadam bhagavat prasadam Yasya prasadam nagati kutopi Dhyayanstuvams tasya yasastri sangam Vande guru sricharam. So for this one I've kept the same picture right through because it's such a nice picture of Prabhupada, smiling lovingly at his disciples. Yasya, of whom the spiritual master, prasadat, by the grace, bhagavat, of Krishna, prasadaha, the mercy, yasya, of whom, aprasadat, without the grace, na, not, gatihi, the means of advancement, kuta api, anywhere, dhyayan, meditating upon, stuvan, praising, tasya, of him, spiritual master, yashaha, the glory, Sandhyam, 3 times a day, sunrise, noon, and sunset. One day I offer obeisances, Guruho, of my spiritual master, Sri auspicious Charana Aravindam, unto the lotus feet. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master. At least 3 times a day, I should offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master. Okay. The perfection of duty can be tested by seeing whether the Supreme Lord is satisfied by its execution. The Supreme Lord's satisfaction can be tested by the Lord's representative, the spiritual master. Therefore, it is important to seek out a real representative of the Supreme Personality Godhead and work under him. If he is satisfied, then we should know that the Supreme Lord is also satisfied. That is explained by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Yasya prasada bhagavad prasada, yasya prasada nagati kutopi, Dhyayan stuvams tasya yasastri sangam, Vande guru sri charan aravindam. So this is said in the positive and the negative for emphasis. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one gets the mercy of Krishna. And without the mercy of the spiritual master, one will make no advancement. So it's very important. We've got a verse in Bhagavad Gita that we'll be studying when we do Guru Vandana. So I won't cover it now because it's time for us to come towards conclusion. So another thing there is that we should worship the Guru 3 times a day. Dhyayan stuvams tasya yasastri sangha. So ideally, we plan to dedicate our whole life to fulfill the pleasure of the spiritual master. In that class we did on managing online life, I mentioned how much Prabhupada meditated on 2 simple instructions from his spiritual master. And he meditated so much that he created a worldwide movement and over 80 books and how many languages, I'm not sure how many languages, 30 or 40 languages as well. So that much of dedication to pleasing the spiritual master is required. Okay, does anyone have any questions on that?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji, does that mean that we have to sing this prayer 3 times a day?
Um, it, when we come to second initiation, we will have the Gayatri Mantra, which we say 3 times a day. But I have heard, I think it was Devi Shakti Mataji here in Vrindavan, when she gave a class and she said that yes, she sings this verse 3 times a day. But generally, most devotees take it as that it's the Gayatri Mantra once we receive second initiation. We're obliged to sing at the 3 sandhyas. Ideally, we would want to meditate on our spiritual master 24 hours a day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we're coming towards a conclusion because your next class will start soon. Just very briefly on these tunes, I studied a little bit on harmonium. So in the harmonium book, there was a little bit of theory. I don't play the harmonium because I didn't succeed, but anyway, I've got a little bit of theory here. Actually, harmonium is not an Indian instrument, although it's now most common in India. It was invented in Paris in 1840. And when the British were ruling India, they brought their harmonium with them. And so then it's come all over India. So the idea of music is there are 2 systems of music. Western system of music is based on concepts such as harmony, modulation, and counterpoint, which are not found in Vedic music. On the other hand, Vedic music is based on the concept of raga, the melodic basis for classical tradition. When properly understood and appreciated, the ragas create an emotional impact upon the listener, which is different from that affected by Western music. The rhythms used and the emphasis in the rhythms are also different. These and other concepts will be introduced later in the verse. Okay. And the other part is so we have the basic notes of Indian music: sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa. And then we have high and low versions of those. And the different combinations of those, the collections of those notes, some high and some low, they come into collections called tots, pronounced tots. So then a raga evolves from this tots. So this is a combination of sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa, with some highs and some lows. And so that makes a tot, which is then evolved into a raga. So a raga is not a tune. A raga is a combination, is combinations of these notes for ascending and for descending, which give different patterns that can be then put together into tunes. So there are 10 tots described, and some of these come on to be the names of ragas as well. We won't go into everything. So Bhat Khande named these tots after well-known ragas to facilitate recognition. So under Bilaval Tat, for example, there is Raga Bilaval and a number of other ragas of the same type. And so similarly with other tots. And so within the tot there are swaras, which is the ascending or descending notes. So all these ragas, there's a whole list of ragas in the appendix, and some of them are good at different types of the day. So these are components of melodies. They're not actually tunes in themselves. Okay, so I've got a list here of 48. So I've got a list of 57 different ragas in this book. So these are These are not the tunes themselves. And then they come together to form tunes. So that way we have the morning tune and the afternoon tune. Now I was going to... Okay. Let's come back together. Does anyone have any questions about this or anything else? And if no one has any questions, I can try and briefly play you this other raga. But I close my tab, so I have to find it. There it is.
Rajamana.
Yeah. Play.
Is poor posture straining your neck back? Does sitting all day cause pain that won't go away?
I'm on YouTube. We got the ads coming.
Mahaprabhu ki tananita gita Aditramaya manasorasena Ramanchakam pasutarang bhaju Vande Guru Sri Charanarvindam Samsara Dava Narvila Loka
Okay, so that's it. That's the example of the afternoon tune. That's not intended to be played in the morning. The one that I was singing, and possibly some other varieties, are morning tunes. But that one that's on that album is an afternoon tune, which is always sung at the Vyasa Pujas. At the time of the Guru Puja at Vyasa Pujas, we sing Samsara Davanadali Loka in this tune rather than Guru Vandana. Okay, I think we should pretty much stop here unless there's any questions, because you need 5 minutes to get ready for your next class, right? Anything anyone wants to say just before we finish?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Shweta here.
Hare Krishna. Yes, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if we can get the recordings of these shlokas that you just now, we listen to it for us to memorize it in the same tune then.
I'm not a good singer, but you'll probably get a recording of the class. Otherwise, you'll find so much on YouTube. There is like Madhava's rock band, or you look if you subscribe on YouTube to Hare Krishna TV. So Hare Krishna TV is ISKCON Desire Tree, and so many devotees who are very good singers will be singing on that. You'll get someone who can sing properly.
Okay.
That'll be fine.
Okay. All right, Mataji. All right. Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else want to say anything? Otherwise, let me go back here. Okay, so if no one else wants to say anything, we can finish this class so you can get ready for your next class, which is due for 5 minutes' time. All right, so thank you so much. Tomorrow we'll look at the next prayer, which will be Narasimhadev's prayers, which is also a very nice prayer. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.